Hello, folks, and welcome to Phelps Can Help TV. I'm your host, Timothy Phelps, and I have a special treat for you today as we will be joined in studio shortly by Miss Peggy Bell. Now, Peggy was an elementary school teacher for 40 years, yet she knew that retirement wasn't for her just yet. She knew there was more that she could do and felt called to help adults this time around. She became a certified personal development coach and focused her attention on helping women in midlife, those that have experienced widowhood or divorce, to transition past the loss to a place of renewed purpose and joy. She started her business, Living Your Purpose, to encompass all that she does. Peggy is also a multiple best-selling author and co-author. Over a 25-year span of writing, she has written 5 books on her own and currently working on her 6th, and numerous magazine articles, including Women's World and Thrive Global. She is a contributing writer for Open to Hope, an online community dedicated to finding hope after loss. Peggy is a professional speaker, and she's available to speak to groups virtually or in person. She is a firm believer that you can find a message within your mess. It's never too late to find your happiness. Your puzzle of life may get knocked over and the pieces lost forever, but she says to go out and find new pieces. Then the finished product may look a little different, but maybe, just maybe, it may be better than you ever imagined. So, without further ado, Peggy Bell, come on down. You're the next contestant on the. Oh, wait, wrong show. Peggy, welcome to Phelps Can Help TV.
Hi, Timothy. I'm so excited to be here.
We're so glad to have you here. Before we begin, I'd like to ask you an icebreaker question, if that's okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. So, if everything in your house had to be one color, what color would you choose and why?
I think blue.
Blue. Why would you choose blue?
More of a teal blue because it reminds me of water, and water's tranquil, and it just brings me peace. Every time I'm around water, I feel peaceful. So that would be the color.
Excellent. Love it. Love it. So, did you have a good Christmas?
I did have a good Christmas. How about you?
Most definitely. It was absolutely wonderful. That's for sure. It was different this year, of course, with everything that's going on. You couldn't have a lot of people together, but make the best of it, and
that's what
always
you
have to
do.
make the best of those bad situations.
Exactly.
So, Peggy, you work with women in midlife transitioning from widowhood or divorce to a place of renewed joy and purpose. Why did you choose this particular niche?
Back in 2009, I was widowed myself after being married for 30 years. And it was the hardest thing I've ever had to go through. I just felt alone. I didn't know if what I was feeling was quote unquote normal. After a certain amount of time, friends are there, but then they have their own lives. And it's just a very lonely type place that you're in when you're in grief. And so when I became a life coach, I realized that was my calling, to help women who are experiencing that loss to know that what they're feeling is okay and that there is hope on the end of grief when you get through it.
That's very important. I know, a lot of times traumatizing situations can make us lose hope and just feel like the world's coming to an end. And it's good to be able to help people getting that renewed joy and that purpose back, and just knowing that there is hope, because no matter how tough situations get, most definitely there's still hope, and we have to remember that.
Right. At
So
the
tell us.
time, it's hard to
Oh,
believe that there is hope,
oh
because
yes,
you're in
most
such a
definitely.
dark place. And my daughter was going through a divorce a few years ago, and she experienced a lot of the same things. And so I realized, there's grief with that also, just a different type.
Yes, there is definitely a different type, but still hand in hand. It's something that another traumatizing situation that we have to go through sometimes, unfortunately, and just being able
Yeah.
to get past that. So that's excellent. So tell us, what exactly is a midlife transition coach?
Midlife transition coach will help women discover different options for this new season in their life, this new chapter, because you're so programmed, especially if you were married a long time. Now it's like, now what do I do? And so it helps them discover the options that are available to them as they move on in this new chapter of their life.
Okay, that's interesting. Um, just want to share a comment that was shared here, just because you may want to see that. Can you see the comment when I pop it up
Oh,
there? Or?
I can. Thank you, Shell.
So you say one thing which I absolutely love: find your message within your mess. Can you tell us a
Yes.
little bit more about this?
I believe that whenever anything bad happens, if you dig deep enough, it's going to be a blessing in disguise. And it's hard to say that, losing my husband was a blessing. That's not what I'm saying at all. But through the grief process, I learned to find my message, which was to come out stronger, more independent than I ever thought I would ever be, and to use that as a calling to help other women. And I think it happens to most of us, where you're in this situation and you think it's horrible, and then when you come out, it's like, well, that wasn't so bad, or there was actually something good to come out of it anyway. And so I believe that's the message that you could find. Try to search for the positive part of it, not only the devastation or what you feel in your mind. There is some positive to come out of it usually.
Yes, most definitely. And every situation, it's what you make of it in the end. I know it's hard to say that you can make a bad situation good, but even things like going through abuse and neglect and addictions and being homeless, there's things that we can use those moments to learn and grow. And then, of course, later on, just like you and I are trying to do, is to help other people who's also went through the same similar situations.
Exactly,
Um,
yes.
Now, do you find that widows and divorcees go through the same emotions?
They go through a lot of the same emotions because being divorced is a loss of their marriage. It's a loss of the life that they had, whether it was a happy marriage and they weren't expecting it, or if it was something that they, were miserable in. It's still a type of loss, and they're still having to move on and pick up the pieces and go forward. And so in that situation, it's the same. They feel a lot of the same feelings, and a lot of it is fear, because of fear of the unknown. What's it going to be like going forward?
Yes. I think we find even in all situations, anytime you went through events such as that or anything that's kind of been hard for us to overcome, that, a lot of times we develop a new fear, so to speak. And it's
Hmm.
hard to get past that sometimes. But
Yes, it is.
so when working with divorcees and working with people who have experienced loss of a loved one and stuff, what are the typical feelings, concerns that they seem to have?
The biggest thing I think is fear, because they don't know what's ahead for them, and we all are, fearful of not knowing what lies ahead. Besides that, I think it's a lot of times self-doubt. Can I actually do this? Do I have what it takes to make it on my own? Whether it's finances, which is another big issue, lots of times, just leaving that comfort zone that they knew, and suddenly you're pushed out, whether it was your choice or like in case of widowhood, where you weren't expecting it or it wasn't what you planned. It's fearful.
Yes, most definitely. And you said something there, pushing you outside your comfort zone. And although, unfortunately, we have those moments that push us outside our comfort zone, I'm sure you'll agree that the magic really happens once you get outside that comfort zone and you push yourself outside of it.
That's the only place it's going to happen. You have to push yourself out there. Yeah.
Yes, most
That's where
definitely.
opportunities are.
Thank you, God. Thank you so much. Yes,
Mhm.
most definitely. God's the glory for all things that we endure and make it through. Most definitely.
Absolutely.
So, what do you believe stops people that's enduring the loss? What stops them from moving on a lot of times?
A lot of times it's the self-doubt. I can't do this. I've never been on my own. And that was my case. I went to be from someone's daughter to someone's wife to someone's mother, and then suddenly I'm out on my own. It's a new identity, a new role that they take, and they're just fearful. And fear just plays. I think it's the number one thing. Fear takes over. It causes the self-doubt. It stops you from moving, trying to get out of that comfort zone. It's having to deal with the fear. And you do that by those limiting beliefs there. And you need to change those limiting beliefs. That's going to stop you, because you can move on.
Exactly. I know a lot of times, that's one of the hardest things that we can that we have to overcome in our lives is those fears, those limiting beliefs, the self-doubt, which is what invoked me pretty much to become, go into mindset coaching, because of the fact that, I firmly believe that change your mindset, change your life, because we can endure, we can make it through anything. God gave us the ability to learn and grow, and we just have to be willing to push ourselves to be able to move forwards and to grow from all situations, because sometimes the worst situations a lot of times are the ones that we learn the most from, and
Right.
we grow the most from. So,
and I had to realize too that God had left me here for a purpose, and it wasn't to just stay grieving. He wanted me to do more with my life. I was to continue living. And then I felt that calling. This is what you need to do. And that's why I went after helping widows and divorcees.
That's excellent. It's hard to do, but it's always good to see someone that's endured things such as this, that's been able to turn it around to a positive and be able to do something good in the world and be the change in the world. That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
And speaking of turning things around to be more positive, the voice inside of us seems to be louder and more negative for a lot of people. How do you help women tame that inner voice, so to speak?
I believe in visualization. If you can visualize it and see it as reality, it's going to be a lot easier to achieve. And so it may sound silly, but your inner critic seems to be so strong and so powerful. And so I did this with my own inner critic, because it was very strong. I just pictured her as this weak, feeble woman, old woman, and I gave her a name that was not very flattering, and just pictured her as just being weak and not this powerful voice that we think is so powerful over us. And just visualizing her, whenever I would hear, you can't do this, or you're not good enough to do this, then I would just address her by name and say, I can do this. And then I would take action and I would actually do it. And the more I did that, the more it seemed to just silence her, because she was weak in my mind, because I didn't visualize this powerful voice like I had been doing. And so to make her weak and not have any power over me just helped quiet her. And so I very seldom hear her anymore. And like I said, it may sound silly, but just that visualizing is such an important tool. And when you see her as weak and feeble, and not this powerful voice anymore, then she has no hold over me. I can do anything now.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, and it doesn't sound weird at all. That's actually it's very powerful. To be able to take control, so to speak, and
Yeah.
not allow that inner voice to be able to control you. You can't allow fear to be your decision maker in life, and
And
that
it
is
was
so
for me.
powerful.
For so
Yes,
long it was, as soon as I would hear it say, you're not smart enough, you can't do this, I would just shut down and not even try. And then when I started using this visualization technique and realized she has no power over me, God's the only one that's going to help me through this.
amen.
Not her, not my inner critic. And so that's what I depend on now.
Yes, the biggest enemy we'll ever face stares back at us in the mirror.
Yeah.
So, oh man, that's very powerful. I love the fact that you keep you kept saying the visualization, because
Yeah.
visualizing things is so important, whether it be things that you're trying to overcome, or even just moving forwards towards a future and your goals. That's why vision boards. A lot of people use some of the most successful people use vision boards, and that's the exact reason why. Is because
Yes.
if you visualize it, you can make it happen. No
I
matter
have them
how,
every year. Yeah.
yeah, no
Yeah.
matter how sometimes off the wall it may seem, never sell yourself short either, because if you can visualize it and truly visualize it, and especially if you can visualize it and steps that needed to get there, oh man, it's possible. I know I
Yeah.
never dreamt I would be where I'm at today with everything. About 16 years ago being homeless, and now being where I'm at today, it's
Wow.
kind of crazy
Yeah.
to think about. But it just takes that visualization, and that's key,
Yes, it is. It's so powerful.
most definitely. So if there are women that's listening right now, and they're wanting to find that renewed purpose, how would you go about helping them to find it?
For so many women, when we have families, things that we were passionate about, we put on the back burner because our children came first, and everything else that in our life, our career. And I take them back to, what was it that you had a passion for when you were younger and you just put on aside? And a lot of times, it was like, I used to love drawing. I used to love painting, or I sewed, or I always wanted to have my own business, but that went by the wayside. Anything that, let's bring this up now and let's see, is this still passion of yours, and can we make this work? Or is there something new? Do you have new ideas that you would like to pursue? So we sit down and we talk about all those things, and find out what do they feel is their calling, what is their why, what would make them happy to do every day if they had the choice. And that's kind of where we get started.
And that's very important, to finding the things that you love to do, and most definitely finding your why. Because if you don't
Yes.
have your why, you don't have anything that drive you towards your future and what
Right.
you're capable of. So
You
that's
need
vitally
something to
important.
look forward to, something inside that's just a passion and a love, and I think we all have it. We just some need to dig deeper than others, especially when it's
Most
been
definitely.
pushed aside for so long.
And it's easy to push it aside. It is,
Oh, very
especially
easy.
when the world feels like it's coming down on you, and it's so easy just to let things go that you love. But by doing that, it's hurting yourself in the long run, because you don't have that that passion, so to speak, that
Hmm.
drives you towards your future and drives you to to reach heights that you never even realized that was possible. You have to have that why.
And life is so short to have to live, with regret. Let's go find that passion and let's make it happen. So that you wanted it, years ago. If you still want it, let's make it happen. Let's do what it takes to make it happen.
Exactly. And you never know what's possible until you try either. And
Exactly, right.
there's a lot of people who says, well, I love to do this, but you can't make no money at that. But that's not always the case. You can. It's just finding the
Yeah.
path and realizing it and visualizing again,
Yeah.
visualizing it, and not giving up on your dreams. Like you said, life is way too short, and we have to be able to. You don't want to go through life feeling like there's nothing, and like you've not accomplished anything, or you don't want to go through life feeling like, it's passed you by and you've not enjoyed it as well. And
Yeah.
just having that joy in life can help make everything so much easier.
Yeah. And living, so many people live according to others' expectations and not their own. They have to find out what is it you want, not what somebody
Exactly.
else, not what you think you should have or what you think you should want. What is it that you want? That's what we look at.
And sometimes as parents, we can be guilty of causing that as
Mm.
well, because
Yeah.
we want certain things for our children, and we push them to do those type of things, but you know we could be hurting them more than, build them up, push them forwards, push them to, to follow their dreams, though not ours.
Let them decide. Right. Yeah.
Exactly, because what I may want for my children, like, of course, me as a parent and being a business person as well, I would love for my children to come work for me. And I know I could give them, help them with the work ethics. I know I could help shape their future and give them things that they're not going to get at a lot of places. I do come to work for me for a little while, anyways, but I don't want to be the type, of parent that says you have to do this. No. Make your
Yeah.
choices.
We have to give them their roots and let them have their wings.
Yes,
Sometimes they'll come back, but sometimes they want to do something else.
and that's fine as long as they're following their dreams. That's fine in the end. So.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, Peggy, the last book that you wrote was a book for widows called Life After Loss for Widows Lifting the Veil of Grief. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes.
So, what could widows gain from reading your book? And would it also be beneficial for divorcees to read?
I wrote the book mainly because of, like what I said when I started my life coaching, and the book is what led me to life coaching. But I wanted them to know that they weren't alone, and so I kind of shared my story, but I also shared different things that worked for me and things that didn't work for me. So I kind of gave them ideas, if you're feeling this, try this, or I was feeling this and I tried this and it didn't work. So it's almost like a conversational piece. It's written informally, almost like I'm talking to a friend. And that's what I wanted. I wanted them to understand that they just weren't alone. That was my biggest goal, to know that they didn't have to go through it alone. What they were feeling was natural. You were going to feel all these different things, and I talk about all the different things that I felt, and that's basically what it was about. And I think divorcees would benefit from it because it's loss. It's they're feeling lost too. They're feeling alone. They're feeling, what do I do now? Where do I go from here? The same thing, when you're married, you have this social circle that you kind of hang around with, and then suddenly you're not part of a couple anymore. And kind of the same thing happens when you get divorced too. You would always be usually with couples, and then suddenly you're divorced and you're not there anymore as a couple. And so a lot of it would benefit divorcees as well. It's written for widows, but I think, after having seen my daughter go through what she went through and the feelings she felt, so much of it was the same that I think it probably would be beneficial.
Excellent. Excellent. I know that, even though there are differences and stuff, there's definitely a lot of the same feelings, so to speak, that they go through. And everything. So I could see it would be beneficial for both as well. So I just wanted to get your
Yeah.
thoughts on that.
Yeah. It's they feel, the loss, they feel the fear, they feel the fear of the unknown. What's my role now? What's going to happen? Just all the same questions. You have a lot of them that are the same.
Yes. So what is a final thought that you would like to leave with those that are tuned in with us now, or those that will tune in later for the replay, who might be going through grief or loss right now?
Just to know that there is hope. That's my biggest thing. There is hope on the other side. There's what you're feeling is not going to stay. And it seems like you're just in this dark place and I'll never get out of it. I'm in this dark hole and I'll never get out. But you will. You will get out of it. And there will be, when I say lifting the veil of grief in my book, it was because it's like everything is so dark and bleak. And once you get past that, it's like you start to see color, you see laughter, you see happiness again. And that's going to happen for you too, whether it's loss of a spouse, loss of a partner, loss of a marriage, loss of a job, even, something it's going to get better. And it's going to be finding your message in your mess. It's going to get better. So my word for them is just be hopeful.
I love that. Finding your message in your mess. I love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Excellent. Thank you so much, Peggy. I mean, this has been great. Before we start wrapping this up, though, you had mentioned a free gift that you would like to offer. Could you tell us a little bit about that? And also, if someone's interested in speaking to you further, how would they reach out to you?
Okay. I'm going to offer what I call 7 days of sisterhood support. And it's digital gifts for 7 days that I would love to give to you. I have like a mini workbook, 1 or 2 guides, and different things that would help you along the way and get you started on the right path. You can just contact me at peggybellcoaching@gmail.com. And in the subject line, just put gifts. And I'll send you the link to download your first gift. And then every day after that for a week, you'll get your next gift. And so you can contact me at that same email address, peggybellcoaching@gmail.com, if you're interested in knowing more about the courses that I teach or want me to speak for different occasions. Now everything seems to be virtual, so it doesn't matter where you live. I can take part in that. So yeah, I would love to connect with anybody that's interested.
Excellent. Thank you again, Peggy, for joining us on Phelps Can Help TV. Now,
It's been a pleasure.
For those watching, I want you to also be on the lookout for Peggy's next book, which is scheduled to be released in early 2021. Is that correct?
I'm thinking probably February. I'm working with my editor. Yeah. So this is a book for midlife. It's not just about loss. It's just for people in midlife. And it's called Midlife Seasoned to Perfection. Because I believe we're not old, we're seasoned, and we're seasoned to perfection according to what we think is perfection. Everybody has a different view on that. And so that's going to be out probably in February. So be looking for that.
Midlife Season to Perfection. Excellent, excellent. So we'll be looking out for that probably in February of 2021. Now, I want to make sure that everyone tunes in next week. We'll be joined in studio next week by another special guest. He's the owner and broker of Realty World Dallin Associates, which is part of one of my other businesses. We'll get to hear a little bit about his story as told in his book, Tender Heart. It's definitely an excellent read. He tells the story of his life growing up with abuse and stuff as well. And we'll be able to find out a little more about how he overcame the hurdles in his life to become a highly successful owner of 3 real estate offices currently, anyways. More to come,
Wow.
I'm sure. Until then, God bless you all. And remember Change your mindset, change your life. Phelps can help, but it starts with God and massive ambition. Thank you again, Peggy,
Amen.
so much for coming to the show. We greatly appreciate it. It's been an absolute blessing.
I feel the same way. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. It's been
You're
fun.
very, you're very welcome. You have a blessed day, and we'll speak with you later.
You too. Thank you.
Phelps believes that everyone has obstacles in which they must overcome in life. He believes that everyone needs someone in their corner. With God and massive ambition, Phelps knows